Welcome to this brand new episode of Cast It to the King. I'm your host Joshua Mickle, and we are going to get right into it with these few topics. It's been a while, but glad to be back once again. It's always a pleasure to always be with you and be able to break down what's happening and all that stuff. And just, it's been really hectic the last few weeks. Just turned 32 on Sunday, and wouldn't you believe it, a tree almost hit my car, almost killed me, almost took out my legs. Wherever part you want to say could have happened, didn't happen. So that happened to me early Sunday morning on my way to my occupation. And right at that moment, my car runs over the whole thing. And so I'm thinking, is there damage to this vehicle? And it turns out, per my adjuster and my insurance, they looked it over and they said, your repair is going to be probably less than the actual deductible itself, considering the only thing that's damaged that they can find is the tire, like underbody protector plastic thing. That's right behind, that attaches just behind the bumper itself. No other cosmetic damages, no engine damages. The engine's pretty much brand new since 24th of March because of a Hyundai recall. Thank you, Brent, my local repairman, for citing that out for what happened back in 23. And wife's away for the week, and my parents just moved in on a Saturday, I believe. Yeah, this past Saturday they just moved in here. So expect more episodes going forward where my dad actually makes a frequent appearance going forward on this show in particular. And we will get back to the Titan Upcast show. There haven't been many episodes since the firing of Brian Callahan, and it's pretty much just been boredom, the same, all that stuff. And I think going forward, what the plan may be is that for every week I do not do a Titan-related episode on the Titan Upcast, I'm going to be making that the Cast It to the King week. So if, for example, by some miraculous setting, we win this upcoming week versus the Chargers, then that will be an episode where I will come on and talk about the Titans, and then we'll go from there. And then the weeks that I'm not doing the Titans is when we'll do this show here. So just a few things to get into because. First off, the crux of the movie schedule is about to come down the pike with, I think they call movies called The Hitman. I think no, not Hitman. Some movie where the guy has to survive for over 30 hours or so, or 30 days, and then he'll be a millionaire. From the director of Baby Driver. And the director's name is slipping my mind right now. You have that coming out. We also have Zootopia. We also have Predator Badlands. I can't wait to see what the director of Prey gives us as an encore for what we got going forward with that one. And then a couple more movies coming down the pipeline. December's going to be the big crescendo month. That's going to have Avatar. It's going to have our first ever look at Avengers Doomsday attached to Avatar. We got David coming out, finally, that animated film that's been talked about for 4+ years is going to be coming out finally. Got a couple of others. I mean, SpongeBob is in there, but really, who's flocking? Like, not a lot of people are going to be flocking to that movie. Quite some entertaining ones coming down the pipeline, starting in November, for sure. and one of our topics today is going to be talking about movie studios and whatnot. But if you remember, back earlier this year, we talked about on this show, and still one of the highly viewed shows of Casted to the King, talking about how a reputable gamer insider claimed that we are going to get Halo coming to the PS5 in 2025. Now, before we get into the first topic here, does that hold up? Does that claim turn out like did that claim hold up to be 100% accurate? Yes and no. We'll start with a no. There's not going to be a Master Chief collection for PlayStation as of this moment. There's not going to be a Halo PlayStation 5 game at this moment of recording for 2025. But what we did get in 2025 is a Halo crossover with Helldivers on a PlayStation 5. So partially, if you want to say Halo has made its official jump into the PlayStation realm in 2025, that's a loophole you got around to. But Master Chief himself, Master Chief, the mascot of Xbox, the one carrying the torch for Xbox for so many years, is now coming to PlayStation 5. It is a fact. It is happening, and it is coming out in 2026 in the form of another Halo 1 remake called now Campaign Evolved. The first ever game of Halo was called Combat Evolved. Then they did a remaster of that a couple of years, a long time ago, right before the Master Chief Collection came out, with Combat Evolved remastered. And now another 10 plus years later, no one would have ever guessed that this is happening. That you have Spartans, you have Arbiters, you have all of the Halo lore now making its way to the PlayStation 5 officially, per a Halo announcement via Microsoft at their Halo launch event that happened well over a few days ago. This has got to be one of the biggest seismic announcements in the gaming hemisphere, probably in not since, I want to say, when the first ever Spider-Man trailer came out for that first initial game from PlayStation and Insomniac, that we were going to get a true, literally tit for tat, great inspiration from the Arkham games, but apply it with the Spider-Man skin. Yeah, we got that feel. We got that feel and announcement back in 2020. What year was it? It was 2016. It was 2016 it was first announced. And then it didn't come out until another 2 years. So, yeah. What a waiting period that was. Not since that. And not since the whole thing of you gotta have a PlayStation, you gotta have or you have to have an Xbox to play this particular game or this particular game right here. This right here with Master Chief on the PlayStation, Halo, the flagship game for Xbox, now on PlayStation, officially, a fact, ends all conversations of console wars. Ends all conversations of should you get an Xbox or PlayStation. It ends every single conversation out there as to who won the console wars and does it really matter anymore. First off, PlayStation, as noted here on the show multiple times and with facts, that the PlayStation has outsold the Xbox on for every 3 consoles that are sold between PlayStation and Xbox. PlayStation sells 2 out of every 3. They are running away with the console sales. They are running away with it. Xbox is left in the dust. And what did we see from Xbox and Microsoft over the last few years? They've been dipping their toes little by little and giving PlayStation exclusive games for cross-platforming, for cross-play, for tapping into a bigger audience. We have seen that now. And now with Gears of War, with Helldivers, and now the coup de grace, Halo, is now coming to a Sony console near you. And we have to talk about this in terms of what does this mean for, let's start with what it means for PlayStation. PlayStation, you're going to get a massive, Microsoft is going to get a massive spike in popularity in the gaming community with PlayStation gamers. Because this game is the pinnacle of Xbox gaming. Now bring it over to the PlayStation gamers, and you are going to now sow more fans and more popularity into this franchise. Now, what does this mean for Xbox and Microsoft? This means essentially that the future going forward is no longer in the cards for Microsoft to make Xbox exclusives anymore. The writing's on the wall. They have been giving out their exclusives to Sony and other consoles, like Nintendo is another one out there. They have been giving their exclusives out to those 2 popular consoles with pretty much nothing in return. With nothing in return. If you were to say to me 2 years ago, Josh, here's what's going to happen. The console wars are over. Okay, I can see that with the sales numbers. Not only that, Xbox is going to be giving Sony exclusives. And rumor out there, the new Fable game that was supposed to come out this year, now pushed to a delay of 2026 after that game was announced well over 2 years ago. That's now rumored for a PlayStation 5 jump per the delay. So keep that in mind. That's another exclusive possibly making its way over to Sony. Not only is Xbox going to be giving exclusives to Sony and Nintendo, Xbox is not going to get The Last of Us. They are not going to get Spider-Man. They're not going to get a whole bevy of Sony PlayStation exclusives. They get nothing. Nothing in return. In terms of getting one of the competition's exclusives. The only thing that Microsoft will be benefiting is essentially a licensing agreement, a third-party agreement, which was my prediction years ago when we talked about this, funny enough, with my dad here, I believe. Part of it was that part of my idea they did not implement, which I'm shocked that they didn't implement. My original idea when they first announced that the exclusives from Xbox were going to make their way to PlayStation eventually. My thought process was that if I am Microsoft, I create a hemisphere where you can have available to Nintendo and PlayStation all of the catalog of the Xbox exclusive library behind a paywall. How did you, in the past, because now with Paramount and ESPN Plus and all other different streaming services, there's no such thing as pay-per-view anymore. back in the olden times, where you had to get pay-per-view to watch a particular game, you had to pay for it in order to get it. Or for better yet, for this scenario that I thought Microsoft was going to do and should have done, in my opinion, if I was running the joint. Sony players, Nintendo players, you want Xbox exclusives? Pay $10 a month for an Xbox Game Pass subscription that's accessible to your consoles of your choice. On a Sony, on a Nintendo. $10 a month subscription. $10 a month, or whatever price point you want to put it at. $10 a month, $20 a month, wherever the hemisphere is for gaming prices. You get the point. Essentially like a streaming service would do. You would do with the streaming service. You want to watch Disney Plus with limits, with ads? Okay, that's going to be $9. If you want the full package, here's $16 a month you got to drop. For a Game Pass, if you want some exclusives but not others, you're going to get you have to pay this amount. If you want the whole library, here's the full price, full stop. And when you stop paying for that subscription, those Xbox games are no longer available to you. They get locked behind a paywall. Microsoft did not do that. And now what they have done, which we previously actually covered on the last episode of the show, they are raising their console prices and their Game Pass prices to $1 gazillion. How in the world you raise prices by 50% across the board and expect to be successful? You are driving away. If that news didn't do it, this Halo news did the following right here. Anyone that's an Xbox gamer saw the Halo trailer announcement and saw that PlayStation logo at the bottom of the title card and said, I no longer need an Xbox. All their games are coming to the PlayStation. I'm going to get the PlayStation that's cheaper, and it's going to get me even more exclusives that I've never played before, like a God of War, like The Last of Us, like any of the Naughty Dog games, like any of the Insomniac games, any of those games that I have never played because they are a Sony PlayStation IP. I'm going to go over there and have access to that while also saying, thank you, Microsoft, for having these games available. The Halo announcement, in my opinion, is Xbox and Microsoft waving the white flag. They are waving the white flag of the console making business. They'll probably come out with another console when the PlayStation 6 eventually comes out in the next 3, 4, 5 years. Hopefully it's super later, because the PlayStation 5 still has a ton of great innovative technologies, and yet you're trying to one up it. I hope it's cheaper than PlayStation 5. And rumor has is that the new Xbox next gen is going to be well over $1,500, and that the PlayStation 6 is going to be anywhere between $400 to $800, because the Xbox is going to be implementing a co-PC gaming aspect with it. Thus the price hike, and almost $1,000 difference between the two. And so Microsoft is now officially a third-party gaming company. They are now in the same breath as Rocksteady, as Rockstar, as Insomniac, as Naughty Dog, as all the other gaming companies that make video games for a console. They'll make the game, and then they they push it out to the distributors, like the EAs of the world. Microsoft is now in that same breath with this Halo announcement. And I'll tell you what. Halo was the reason why I made the jump from PlayStation 2 to an Xbox 360. Never mind the red ring of death that just played and chewed at my head of irritation during my childhood when I was in high school. Never mind that. That red ring of death for the 360, y'all may remember, for those original systems, which was a pain. Back in the day, you would ship it off to get repaired, and then it still wouldn't work, and then they just gave you the new updated version for free. At least that's what happened with me when I was in high school. And then I stuck with Xbox since. And then Spider-Man was making its way as an exclusive to the PlayStation, to which that's when I make my jump back over to PlayStation. Because they have, like at that point, and still to this point, better games. They have more games. They have more high-quality games. Xbox and Microsoft are bare to the bone right now. In terms of exclusives. And so I can't wait for Halo to come out. I'll be one of the first to buy it. And I can't wait for the mechanics of being Master Chief, of being a Spartan on a PlayStation platform. Who would have thought? Back when Halo 3 came out in 2007, who would have thought that this franchise would be on a PlayStation? Never in a million years. And yet here we are. All right. With that down, we're going to get into one final topic today on a few slow news cycles because of October and September. And that's this. We have a potential merger on our hands with major movie studios. Skydance, just to give a quick recap, Skydance, who has given us, who's most famous for the Mission Impossible movies, a whole bunch of Tom Cruise movies, and a whole bunch of other movies. They a few months ago officially bought out Paramount. They now own Paramount. And now it looks like Skydance Paramount, the new people over at Paramount, run by the people at Skydance, want to be big players in the game. They are looking to get Warner Brothers Discovery. At least the entertainment film divisions over there. And that has opened up one of the biggest bidding wars for a studio in recent memory and recent Hollywood history. Warner Brothers, a very, very like stewed of movie studios dating back so many years, decades, how many great movies they've produced and made, their history in their film catalogs, their HBO catalogs. Oh, excuse me. All that now up for sale. The studio's up for sale once again. They were just bought out by Discovery no less than over 2 years ago. And before that, they were bought out by AT&T. Here's the following right here. And this is all going to connect to Paramount eventually. AT&T bought Warner Brothers for over $100 billion. When Discovery bought them from AT&T, it was around $40 billion. They had run the reputation of Warner Brothers into the ground from the HBO Max day and date releases of popular films for free and not behind a paywall in all of 2021, which ticked off Denis Villeneuve, famous for the Doom movies, which ticked off Christopher Nolan, who no longer works at Warner Brothers anymore. He's now over at Universal. Ticked off a whole bunch of filmmakers. And Discovery, at the end of all that, bought them out for $40-something billion. Now, the folks at Discovery, David Zaslav, the CEO, rearranges everything. He cleans up house. He writes off films that are in the middle of production, but looks at it and says, you know what? This is going to do more damage than good if we release this to the public. And we'll just eat the money right now versus eating the money and killing ourselves with our reputation. Batgirl being the one instance of that, which suffered under the cancellation and acts of David Zaslav, as some in the film punditry call it. The acts of David Zaslav, as they call it. He has the great intention, and we've seen it so far with the first Superman movie and Peacemaker Season 2, where he sees what Marvel has done with its own studio. DC, at the time of the purchase with Discovery, they're just an IP. They don't have a studio. He creates DC Studios. He taps to James Gunn and Peter Safran with the help of a former Disney film division head honcho that used to be Warner Brothers and then came back out of retirement to be consultant with David Zaslav. Handpicked James Gunn and Peter Safran to run this new DC Studios, a la akin to what Marvel Studios is. And that has brought forth a success in the revitalization of DC with Superman and Peacemaker. And we will see what happens with this upcoming Lantern show. He does all that, fiscally responsible. To now, fast forward to today, Warner Brothers this year alone has now broken the Hollywood record for most consecutive films opening number one at the box office and also opening up with $40+ million on opening weekend. That's just just saying that makes me want to double think that statement, but that's fact. And so here comes Paramount, who fresh off being bought now wants to buy Warner Brothers, and according to the traits, after multiple rejections from Paramount, with Paramount. I'm sorry, my dog's just barking, kind of spooked me a bit. So, Paramount comes to Warner Brothers for a bid. They reject it. They reject a second bid. Other studios catch wind. Universal wants Warner Brothers. Apple wants Warner Brothers. Amazon wants Warner Brothers. There's hints that Disney may want Warner Brothers, but probably can't afford to because they're still reeling off the purchase of Lucasfilm and 20th Century Studios, formerly 20th Century Fox. Oh, and a quick point. And I just thought of the third subject, and we are going to tackle that at the end of the show here. Now that I'm thinking about that Lucasfilm. Netflix, of all people, want Warner Brothers. To where I think it was either Hollywood Reporter or Variety that came out and said that the estimated value of Warner Brothers after the debt is even considered, that the sale price of Warner Brothers is now estimated at $67 billion. That is a well over 20% boost from where it was before. And David Zaslav is to be credited with that, to boost up the stocks, to boost up the value, and to value great filmmaking. The latest Paramount offer not only wants to buy out Warner Brothers and merge the companies, they want to keep the staff. They want to keep the staff there, and Paramount has offered a co-CEO position to David Zaslav to co-run Paramount and Warner Brothers. Now, usually if you're a CEO getting bought out, you're looking at a nice fat paycheck and you are looking forward to retirement. If this offer holds up to be true, and this is the offer that's accepted, David Zaslav is going to be retiring and then some. Like, he'll be this like co-CEO in name while collecting millions from the buyout, while collecting a paycheck as a CEO. It's a win-win. It's a win for the film fans out there that can still have another studio to still have films coming out of, akin to what 20th Century is doing under the Disney umbrella. They're still giving us films like Apes, Predator, Aliens, and a whole bunch of indie films between it with the Searchlight label. With the Paramount Warner Bros., you're getting just that, according to this latest offer. They will be under the Paramount umbrella, but they will still act as its own entity, its own studio going forward. And I think this whole thing could be really, really interesting as to how desperately Paramount wants Warner Brothers. They desperately want Warner Brothers. And I think this is going to go down the way of, funny enough, that actual 20th Century Fox sale that Disney had. Disney wanted them. They want to get them so they can build up their Disney Plus catalog and library. Then Comcast comes in, Universal comes in and says, we're going to, we want you guys too. And then Disney gave them the ultimate bid that now sees 20th Century under the Disney umbrella. We may now see, maybe in the next year or so, a Paramount Warner Brothers merger unlike something we've ever seen. All right, and with that down, we're going to get into this next topic and final topic. Last second on my mind because it literally got brought up when I said the word Lucasfilm, and that is this right here. You know, it was just a normal day. When did this article come out? This article came out, I want to say like a week or so ago. It was from Forbes. In the middle of October, just a normal October day, and I get this weird notification on my Google, on my phone. I have Google Chrome, not Safari, and it recommends me articles and stuff that I follow, like movies, games, my sports teams, all that stuff. And then on Forbes, of all things that I could have been reading, I see an article that said Rise of Skywalker, $600 million. And I'm like, that has to be a typo, right? And so I pull up Forbes, and sure enough, the Rise of Skywalker cost a whopping, according to, as I try to bring this up right here, according to a new UK filing, one of the most expensive films in movie history, with $594 million. $594 million. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is some of the Indiana Jones cost a whole bunch of money, like a $400+ million for Indiana Jones 5. And I said at the time, how can you make a film that has hardly any CG? It's with real people and real practical stuff. No CG, like hardly any CG besides a sequence with de-aging apparently. How in the world did Indiana Jones cost $400+ million? And now the Rise of Skywalker is apparently $600 million. Not accounting for marketing. Not accounting for marketing. Oh my goodness gracious. As we rate this a bit right here, and I want to read a little bit of this. Disney revealed, this is back on October 5th, 13th, I want to bring up this year of 2025. This movie came out in 2019. October 13th of 2025. It got updated the next day later, but still. Let's read this insane piece here. The cost of the production company behind the third installment in the sci-fi saga rose by nearly $10 million last year, pulling in its total to a hair's beneath of an EU's $452 million spent on Disney's first Star Wars movie, The Force Awakens. It too only trails just Jurassic World Dominion, which cost around a similar thing. Blah, 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 blah. Remarkably, despite its staggering cost, The Rise of Skywalker came in under budget. There's no doubt about that. Like the last few Jurassic World, Disney's trilogy was made in the UK. Blah, 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 blah. The budgets of the movies made in the United States are usually a closely guarded secret. Gosh, I wonder why. Studios continue to combine the cost of them and their overall expenses and don't itemize how much was spent on each one of them. It's a different story in the UK, though. Studios film in the UK get reimbursement up to 25.5% of the money they spend in the country, provided that at least 10% of the movie's core costs are incurred in there. To demonstrate to the authorities, studios set up separate companies to produce each film in the UK, and they are obliged to file legally binding financial statements. So, basically, if this film was completely shot in the United States of America and not in the UK, we would have never known about this. We would have never known about this figure here. $600 million. What? Folks are complaining that Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars are going to cost $1 billion combined. That's 500 a pop. 500 for Doomsday, 500 for Secret Wars. Rise of Skywalker, just this number right here. You can, there is no excuse. There is no getting around to how atrocious this number figure is for a film's budget. And folks are wondering why ticket prices are super high now compared to they were over 10 years ago. I mean, this is next level of craziness right here. Because, oh my goodness gracious. Okay, let's take a collective breath for a minute. How the heck does Kathleen Kennedy still have her job? How does she still have her job? It'd be one thing when we said after Indiana Jones 5 came out, when the budget was like well over, and I just want to get this correctly, Indiana Jones 5 budget of reportedly, according to the financial filings, an AI viewing here on Google search, $419 million. And it made $384 million, which means it lost Disney hundreds of millions of dollars. Basically, here's the math on film budgeting right here and how a movie's supposed to make profit off of its budget. Essentially, you have to do the following here. Take a film's reported production budget, which is what you see on Wikipedia most of the time. Now double that. Double that, and the movie is in the green. Because that accounts for whatever the film's production budget is. It will never, ever exceed, unless you're the Amazing Spider-Man 2 somehow, it will never exceed the production budget. And then account to a percentage that the theatrical movie theaters hold for return of what they get of the profits. Once you got those two out of the way, then you're in the clear. Now you're making money. Folks want to say Superman didn't make money. It did make money. It made Warner Bros. Well over $120+ million in profit. DC Studios made profit with that movie per the math of the production budget. Indiana Jones, with this $419 million figure, it needed to make well over $800 million just to break even. And it made $384 million. That should be jobs lost. That should be folks fired. That should be folks, like, whatever word you want to say about the corporate world, about having consequences. But we all thought at the time, when this happened with Indiana Jones, that, oh, this is Lucasfilm's legitly, not counting for Han Solo, because that is a whole nother story between Phil Lord and Chris Miller, and the division between them and Lucasfilm is a whole different story. But this one, for tit for tat, with no replacement of the directors, no replacement of the writers, that this film, Indiana Jones, we all thought, oh, this is Lucasfilm's legitly worst day at the box office as a collective. No, apparently Rise of Skywalker was the first one to do it. $600 million budget, production budget, means the film had to make at minimum, $1.2 billion at the box office. At minimum. In the film, as I bring this up here, Rise of Skywalker, 9 box office. It fell just under $200 million short. It just equally made over $1 billion. For any other film that makes a film for like $150, $200 million, for a film to make $1 billion off a $150, $200 million budget, everyone's popping champagne bottles. But not if you're Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. $600 million. And you don't break even. This explains why we never have gotten a Star Wars film since 2019. It explains it completely. Disney did not want to push forward the Obi-Wan movie. They changed it to a TV show. They didn't want a Boba Fett movie. They changed that to a TV show because they see Rise of Skywalker lost hundreds of millions of dollars. And if you're a production company that just loses, you just lost money from Han Solo, from a whole different story with that, and now your next film loses more money on top of that. Why should I, if I'm Disney and Bob Iger or Bob Chapek at the time, why would I say, okay, greenlight the next Star Wars movie? Why would I? Better yet, better question needs to be asked as we take a collective breath again. Why is Kathleen Kennedy still employed? Why is she still the head honcho at Lucasfilm? Why? She's got photos of somebody. She's got photos, like embarrassing photos of the Disney executives around there somewhere. There's no excuse for her to keep her job. There's zero excuse. And now we have finally, ever since 2019, we finally have supposedly 2 films on the way. We have one confirmed with The Mandalorian and Grogu. One problem with that. That's a continuation of a television show. We have coming out on the 60th anniversary, I believe, of Star Wars. Is it 60? I don't know. I'm losing track of time, and I'm getting old up there in age. Where Star Wars Starfighter, the Ryan Gosling film and Sean Levy movie, is supposedly coming out. At what point, and I know this is a dead horse I keep beating, but this is how much of a fan I am of Star Wars. How much longer do you over at Disney continue to justify Kathleen Kennedy still having a job? Still having a job. It makes zero utter sense. And what did we get in response to all this? With Kathleen Kennedy, we got a welcome back to the Star Wars era with The Force Awakens. Then we get a highly divisive sequel to that. Then we get a highly divisive sequel to that movie. And sprinkled in between there's Rogue One somewhere, which was great, which was a springboarding to one of their greatest acclaimed shows of Andor. Sprinkled in there somewhere was the Obi-Wan and Boba Fett movie that they switched over into a Disney Plus show. Sprinkled in there is The Mandalorian, a television show. Sprinkled in there as well is the divisive and utter putrid pile of garbage, the Acolyte show in there. Oh, and by the way, how many films have we seen being announced and canceled at Lucasfilm? Because Kathleen Kennedy does not know how to run a movie studio. She doesn't. She may be a great movie producer, but a great CEO, great president of operations, she is not. Michael Jordan, the best basketball player ever in NBA history. Can he be an owner of an NBA team? No, he can't. He cannot be an effective owner, and showed that during his time in Charlotte. And it just needs to be said again. Kathleen Kennedy must go. And if you look at, as I try to, and I want to try to bring this up here, what is the Mandalorian and Grogu's numbers? This trailer was announced back in man, when was this trailer announced? Yeah, just over a month ago on September 22nd. September 22nd is like a really, really funny day in my like significance in my life for some reason. This film hasn't even gotten 10 million views. And this thing's been out for over 2 months. Whereas we have big franchise films of Avengers, Spider-Man, all that stuff, you get 10 million views in your sleep overnight. In your sleep overnight. There's not a lot of excitement for this Mandalorian. Grogu, the trailer itself, it looks like a continuation of the television show to me. I'll go see it. I'm excited to see what Jon Favreau does as a film director, continuing to baby this Mandalorian thing of his. But we're just done. Until there is a legit change at Lucasfilm, we're done with Star Wars. We're just done. Anyone can tell me, Andor's great. Skeleton Crew's great. Okay, I believe you. I really genuinely think that you're right. But I don't have the motivation to go see it because I've been burned on things that I thought were going to be really good. And it turned out to be piles of crap. I'm done getting burned. I'm done. I got better things to do in my life than worry about what the next Star Wars stuff is. I am much more interested in seeing how Peacemaker turned out to be, which is a critically acclaimed show for season 2, and what this new Lantern show is going to be over on HBO with DC Studios and James Gunn. What is that going to look like? The true detective inspiration aspect of that they're saying the show is going to be. I much rather devote my time to shows like that than being burned and upset over something that I love. I've let it go. I've let Star Wars go after The Acolyte. I keep my ear down on the floor to see what rumblings there are, because I don't want to be completely out of the blue. But I will not spare another time, minute, hour, second to Star Wars until there is a change. I will not care as much as I used to be in the past. I just won't. Because the incompetence from up top rots on down. It rots from the fish's head, and that's Kathleen Kennedy. And until she is gone and replaced with someone new, probably someone we never heard of, maybe not Dave Filoni, maybe not Jon Favreau. Maybe it is Jon Favreau, because look what James Gunn is. He's a film director who's now running a studio. If it's Jon Favreau or someone else running Lucasfilm going forward, until that day comes, I can't do it anymore with Star Wars. I just can't do it anymore. And the Rise of Skywalker Forbes news that came out a month ago just reinvigorated just how much frustrating this is as a fan of the amount of inexcusable inexplicably inexcusable things happening behind the scenes, because it's malpractice. It's malpractice and it's insanity. All right. With that being said, 3 topics taking up a good chunk of the time, but we're going to wrap it up today. Until next time, guys, thanks for tuning in for this interesting episode between Halo, studio mergers, and Star Wars. Who would have thunk in those 3 topics? I'm your host, Joshua Mickle. Until next time, keep kicking it to the king.